the umbrella of experience design, at least in India, is
Was the master's degree more from an academic point of view to consume information, or was it a career transition strategy that you had in your mind?
why you chose experience design as your title, and for Janeza, you service designer.
Hey guys, I'm Janeza Niazi, author of Navigating Service Design, and joining me is the incredible Sharan Longani, an aspiring service designer. And together, we're on a mission to connect you with the brightest minds practicing service design. In today's musing, we have Shreya Kumar, a service designer, a TEDx speaker, ADP list mentor, and is currently based out of Berlin. She has 9 years of consulting experience across healthcare, fintech, aerospace, automobile, railway, and other domains. She has completed her master's degree from Aalto University. Her major was in collaborative design. She has represented India in the global service design community at Frog and actively participates in community efforts as a speaker and educator. Thank you, Shreya, for joining us.
hey. Thanks for the introduction.
We're really excited to have you on board. And we have this small ritual that we do where we don't jump into the serious topics in the first bit. We want to know, has your experience working across different cultures been different? Is there a cultural influence, since you said that you've been working with clients from Britain and other countries? Have you also worked with clients in India, and have you seen a difference across?
Yeah, a lot. And it's interesting. I mean, now that I'm working in Berlin, and versus, I mean, I'm fairly new here. It's just been a year, and it's been over just 18, 19 months. So my perspective would, I don't want my perspective to be blanket statements. Look at my perspective from like someone who's still observing and someone who's still absorbing a lot. So the cultural nuances that I see at least change across both these geographies, right? Projects in India, especially transformation projects, are much more than the transformation projects in Berlin. That is because we are a developing economy. That is because there are enough service seekers. So service providers are sort of passionate enough to listen and to welcome more perspective. Similarly, I also feel like the one aspect from a cultural perspective that comes in is like the idea of customer satisfaction. The idea of customer satisfaction is so high that the best of the best service providers would go above and beyond regardless of the budget to retain a client, right? And whether that's a kinari wala dukan, right, or that's a urban clap, and that's where I feel that often leadership in agencies welcome ki, oh, you want to do this extra work, fine, come do it, right? But now when you think about Germany is the exact opposite of all of that. And again, very blanket statement, but from my learning, it's very different, if not exact opposite, right? But what I've observed in the last 1.5 years as a designer in observation mode is that systems are not as complex in Germany as they are in India, right? Geographies are smaller, population is controlled, which means that, and systems are established for decades now, to a point where things are working well the way they are working. So if there is, forget changing something about it, even questioning the status quo is something that is a huge challenge, right? Because the roles within the order and the structure that's practiced within these systems, the roles are very well defined, and that percolates to the place you're working at. So my role at my company as a designer is this, and this. Now, if I have to go beyond that, I have to create a wave of requests, talk about value, talk about how it's going to contribute to the growth of the company, my growth, and the growth of the project. I mean, of course, efforts are welcomed just the way they are in India. But at the end of the day, are they needed? Is a big question. So when we think about clients, for example, I'm working on an automobile project, I've worked on a healthcare project, and the enthusiasm with which that you can go to them about, oh, we can think at this level, we can create an entire stakeholder map and start wondering where business can get impacted or who all can get impacted through the business, right? That is not needed until it's needed, right? It's not done until it's needed. It's that there's this much money coming in, right? We are satisfied with that. And it's, the famous saying that necessity is the mother of all inventions. That's where India wins the game, I feel. And Germany at this point, necessities at this point are fairly balanced. When there is a necessity, sure, I mean, there is that, okay, let's bring these things on the table, but the questioning the status quo is very challenging, right? However, I would say this, that while in India it's wonderful to be radical, because that's what India needs right now, and that's the space right now where you can be radical, it is very well received to be incremental.
Which is a great passageway into the excerpt that we've picked up for this podcast. So as you know, all of these episodes are anchored around a theme from Juneza's book, Navigating Service Design. And today we are reading from the chapter, The Red Thread. So I'm going to read out the excerpt. As a designer, if you find yourself constantly zooming in and out, thinking and fussing over details within space, a product, or a digital application that is beyond your responsibility, or trying to map how your solution fits into the larger picture, you're on the path leading to service design. Service designers I've encountered are not only big picture thinkers, but they can also zoom into details to fine-tune an experience. So the red thread is essentially the road that most designers and non-designers have traveled to arrive at service design. Can you tell us about your red thread? What was the path that led you to service design?
I feel that it was very natural. A lot of designers are creatively bent, and I feel a lot of designers are analytically bent, right? And I feel that from the get-go I was like that. There was a lot of analytic capabilities that I have, which automatically or organically attracted me to the different courses I picked during my education, which were even during my bachelor's, which was doing projects in research lab for Herman, and doing projects like systems thinking to understand and navigate the problem of the waste management system in Bangalore. And this is because I wanted to dive into complexity and analyze it. And what I really thrived on was arriving at a solution for it. But slowly during my journey of design, I learned that there isn't one solution but many, and there is an application that's radical and there's an application that's incremental. I mean, you can relate to this, right, Juneza, being a service designer. And I could never really point at, at that time, our learning of this, only if we had known the name for it was service design, right? And when I got out of college, my immediate inclination, even being a product and interface designer, was to go straight away into UX and straight away start solving problems wherein either digital intervention or any intervention can come in. But to my disappointment, over the 4 or 5 years that I was working, where UX was booming and digitization was going pretty crazy, was that, there's a lot of app and website happening, but there is so much more out there so much legacy out there that needs to be sundown, and all of those problems won't necessarily be solved by a website or an application. I mean, right? The question would be, or the answers would eventually lie within the business processes. It would lie within questioning the service itself or questioning the system itself. So that's where I felt that my understanding of research and my collaboration needed to be polished up, and to be able to sit with people who wish to solve complex problems, I wanted to be able to understand and use terminologies that are, used across these spheres, which is why I went for my master's. And the reason why I chose collaborative design was that regardless of the design stream, the whole point was collaboration, right? At the end of the day, you can get a client, and how through collaborative practices or methodologies you are having that holistic systemic thinking, regardless of the solution that may come out. And post that, I automatically was attracted to agency, because sort of different projects come into agency work, and still in my head I wanted to understand what it means. What does complexity mean? What all can I analyze, right? The reason to work in ThoughtWorks and to work in Frog was that they had these funnel of different clients coming in, where railway systems who are very legacy and very registered want to start using machine learning and start using AI to innovate their product. My red thread clearly across these have been to explore these different complex industries. And still, I don't even know if I'm still ready to work for a specific product per se, but I'm sure that I want to be in the realm of B2B, because that's where the designers are really needed right now. Right? It's been customer experience for so long. We are really needed in the realm of B2B. We really needed in the back end. And that's where service design plays a huge role.
So
Right?
it seems you had a lot of clarity that you wanted to pursue service design at a much younger, even after you did your bachelor's. Were you already introduced to these concepts during your bachelor's degree, or when you did your UX, you realized that, oh, this is very limiting. I can actually add value to a lot more different touch points if I'm building a service blueprint. I remember the service blueprint that you guys built was during your initial phase, right? Was that the first service blueprint that you built, or was
It
that
was-
a introduction to service design that you had?
It was, I would say, like in industry, it was the first full-fledged service blueprint I made. But I didn't call it service blueprint. I called it a system, which is very different now. A system map is very different, right? And that time, the reason why I called it system map was because, as you asked, what was it in bachelor's that I was exposed to? Yeah, Srishti School of Art Design was crazy. They didn't just want to do the conventional design core skill, but they wanted us to be introduced to very, very theoretical disciplines, qualitative disciplines like systems design, research. It was crazy to be introduced to that at that point. And I remember I would have conversations with my friends who were doing visual communication, visual design, furniture design, and they're like, what are you doing, dude? Like, you're not a designer. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, probably. Maybe I'm just a researcher. And they would look at my work where I'd be making such system maps, I'd do user research analysis, right? And they'd be like, this isn't design. And this isn't like art. And in my head, it was really difficult to pinpoint, right? Because only until I did my master's or before my master's, did I formalize these concepts in my head. But the one thing that I did during my bachelor's that opened me up to these disciplines, apart from, of course, Srishti College, of course, was doing an exchange program in Milan. It was Politecnico di Milano, and that exchange program sort of allowed us to choose any course across masters or bachelors, right? And me and my friend, when we went there, we just threw ourselves into the master's programs to understand how tough this can get. And I remember attending this course called PSSD, Product System Service Design, which now is very famous, right?
Yeah.
So I was just curious, your introduction to service design was at Polytech, but you chose to pursue collaborative design at Aalto University. Was there a reason
Yeah.
for that?
Yeah, because for me, it doesn't end at service design, right? For me, it's bring all the human-centered design streams at me. It's like, and like the collaborative industrial design course, the reason why I was so attracted to that was that we were going to touch upon several human-centered design streams, and the way that we were going to experiment with those were in collaboration with different industries in Finland. So one was service-driven design, one was experience-driven design, one was systems thinking, one was urban transitions. Oh my God, if I started speaking about urban transitions here, you guys will be blown away. There is an entire different design stream which is for the future, only for the future, 20 years down the line, 30 years down the line. And I don't know when we're going to start experimenting with it in the industry, but that time will come and it'll blow everyone away.
That's amazing that you've been constantly like consuming information and learning, because it's very rare to see people picking up a master's degree to learn. We've always seen people picking up a master's degree for a career transition, or essentially to pick up a new skill or to start a new career journey in itself. So was that also your thought process around doing a master's degree, or was it solely to just consume information and get to know what more is out there where this design industry could go in the future? Was the master's degree more from an academic point of view to consume information, or was it a career transition strategy that you had in your mind? Like, what works well?
Interesting, both. I mean, it was one to like academically expand my mind to understand the application of service design or application of design complexity, and the other was to showcase knowledge and a portfolio which opened me up to jobs which had complex clients. And I mean, when I was doing my thesis and my master's, it was I was basically sitting in Bir, Himachal Pradesh for 4 months, and I was doing research and doing intervention with the community over there to come up with implications and solutions for improving their waste management system. And to start with, they didn't have a waste management system. So I remember collaborating. I remember sitting with the CM, and I invited him to a workshop that we did in a cafe with some of the city migrants who had opened cafes over there, and with the local government, which is the panchayat, not the ministry itself. So we all were sitting together, and I gave them different case studies. After researching, I found out the different pathways of why waste management was a problem, right? And I gave them case studies on top of that to solve that. And oh my God, they all were so passionate, and they all came up with such great interventions and solutions, right? And I use that as a participatory and collaborative design approach, that this is the solution from the community. and that is, in form of concepts. I put them in my thesis. So I remember speaking to the CM and I told them that look at this, we can make a tool out of this which can be used by the panchayat. We can create representative agents of different communities, like the Buddhist community, the yoga community, the city migrant community, and this we can create circularity. And the CM said, in 2 years I'm going to get a budget and I'm just going to build a factory. We just have to wait till then. And and I was like, okay. I was still very passionate and I was like, I'm going to come back. So after my master's, I did not stay in Finland. I left and I came back and I went back to Beer. But that's the thing, it was so disappointing for me that nobody cared. And that's when I joined ThoughtWorks. But yeah, essentially, it may come across as I'm very motivated, but yeah, you need a different level of motivation for that kind of work. It's next level.
Sounds like fighting the system, essentially.
Yeah.
I wanted to just summarize the point that Shreya was making. You made a very interesting point that the master's degree, also the thesis that you worked on, was a very strong portfolio project as well, to position the involvement of your system thinking and a service design lens and the impact it could potentially create. Because often when you're working as a UX designer and trying to transition, we don't have such projects. You need to either work at a place or you need to be as motivated as you to go and talk to a startup or talk to maybe an NGO and see if you could work with them in order to build that portfolio project so that you could showcase the value you could bring to the table. Often we don't have any tangible portfolios to showcase. Because something that I realized after I did my master's and came back is that unlike an IIT or IIM master's degree, a lot of young designers feel that just because we have a master's degree in our resume, people are going to hire you, which is not generally the case. Because it's not the reason somebody will hire you. It's always your skill sets and the value you're bringing to the table, and you have to have that skill to communicate that. And a master's degree would not do that for you, right? Are we on the same page, or do you have a different opinion?
Oh, 100%. 100%. And in India, people realize that if you have that academic excellence, you will be able to inculcate that learning in our studio. Right? But it depends over here. It depends on where you're working, right? But for now, what I have seen, of course, in some places over here, it would be the same, but people are not really excited about the flash that comes with being someone who's done a master's or a PhD, because if you do not have evidence of impact or industry experience, you're nobody. You can have a master's, no industry experience, and you will still be hired as an intern. The industry experience matters much more in this country than a master's.
Understood, yes.
So your master's, the subjects that you studied seem like they were ahead of its time, like the module that you mentioned on urban design, right? So how did you break into ThoughtWorks? Were they able to see value in your role? Was it a struggle or was it like a piece of cake?
Interesting. It wasn't, I wouldn't say it was a piece of cake, but I wouldn't say it was a struggle either to find a job, because probably I had 4-5 years of experience before that. And it wasn't a service design role, it was a experience design role, which meant, I don't know what you guys think about experience design, right? But the umbrella of experience design, at least in India, is that you're a multidisciplinary designer, especially specializing in one of the 4 disciplines, which 3 of the 4 disciplines, which is service design, UX, UI, research. So 3 out of these, if you have, you are an experienced designer, right? So it was not so tough to get ThoughtWorks or Frog. because the requirement they needed I had, right? And but I wouldn't say that definitely showcasing my capabilities of the masters that I did, or the subjects that, or the projects that I did in my portfolio, it did trigger a rigor in them to integrate that in their departments. However, what I saw was contradictory was the design tests that you have to give, right? They were very UX. They
Right.
wanted to see the good old persona, user flows. Can you translate that into digital work? Not Frog. I didn't do a test in Frog, but yeah, they wanted to see all of that. Yeah, I mean, it's great that you have all this fluff and you know about all this, but can you deliver? Will you be able to do that for us, just in case? Of course, I mean, yeah. Which is practical. I mean, it makes sense. It used to really rile me up before, but it's practical. It's business at the end of the day.
When they gave you that test, did you freak out? Were you like, oh shit, is this what I'm being hired for?
Yeah, you're right. I did. Oh, I didn't remember this. But yeah, this did happen. That after my masters, I had a lot of expectations. Going back to the mountains it already killed my expectations quite a bit. But when so I remember I had to choose between ThoughtWorks, and I'm going to be very candid over here. I had to choose between a tech company, and I also applied to an NGO which did hardcore research and service design, but they offered me peanuts.
Yeah.
And I was so sad because it made me feel like this is how much I'll be valued over there. Because what you're remunerated for at the end of the day shows how much that company values the discipline they're remunerating you for. So regardless of you working in an NGO, right, it doesn't matter, right? You can do the same work of inclusion even in a tech company, and it might just remunerate you much further. So it was a really difficult decision for me to choose between them, and the assignment that I did for ThoughtWorks freaked me out because I was like, this is very UX. Am I going back? I would say I did go back. I mean, or I stayed at that level with a lot of projects I did, but then I used from the initiatives that I did, and slowly I kept adding in, the stuff that I learned from my masters. That sort of made me feel better, and that's personally been my own effort. It's not something that was required from me.
This also reminds me of my first test that I had to do after I came back from my master's as well. It was a UX test, and I freaked out. And what I did was I pulled out all the issues in the hiring process, and along with the UX design, I gave them that, you know what, I think you should change your hiring process. These are the systemic issues that you have, and these were the pain points for me as a person that you're recruiting. And I gave them a service design problem solving structure as well, and they were like, okay, we never asked for this, but interesting, let's have a conversation around both of them. Then that's how I positioned myself, that hey, I can add value here as well, but don't limit me here.
Awesome.
I freaked out when I got that the test from them. So it's definitely a moment of realization for you that, okay, am I going to civil service design work, or are they going to bucket you into a UX role?
Is that why you chose experience design as your title, and for Janeza, you service designer? Like, how do you all pick your labels, and are these strategic, thought out moves basis the state of service design out there?
Do you want to go first, Janeza?
So I come from an architecture background, right? For me, when you say experience design, it's not limited to digital touch points as well. You very nicely summarized it as the 3 careers or 3 skills that you need to have, like UX, UI, and research, to be an experience designer. But in my mind, since I've come from a more architecture, spatial design background, the moment someone says experience design, I'm also expecting them to give me non-digital touch points as well to design experiences for. So when I was working in an automotive space, there was a HMI designer, which was mostly working with product experiences. Then we had a experience designer who was specifically working with the retail experience. And then we had UX and UI. So I realized that experience design as a terminology is being used based on what is the need of the hour in that particular company or a system. So I stuck to service design as a designation or title because I wanted to set the right expectation that they should have from me and not switch me into different products when they need manpower. So I was very careful on how I positioned myself not to get trapped in manpower requirement and being thrown around wherever they required me. So that's one of the reasons why I stuck to the designation.
Amazing. Wow, I wish I had that much courage. But about titles, right? I'll be very honest. For me, it's very confusing. And not the titles itself, but just which title to go for is very confusing. I am aware within the design streams what I can do, what I don't want to do, right? When it comes to titles, you give me whatever title you want to, but I will still do what I have to. I will still recommend that if we are creating a web intervention or a digital intervention for, say, a healthcare professional, and if to enable them that requires a physical touch point or service playbooks or training manuals, then I will try to sell that regardless of which title I have. And that is how will I do that? Of course, I will focus on the impact that it can have, right? But ideally speaking, this is a very rebellious side of me or a very practical side of me, but ideally speaking, I would love to have a title of a strategist or a service designer, right? Mm-hmm. Because if it's a company that can actually recognize that these are the set of designers who really wish to be involved at a systems level, they wish to create a strategy along with the business folks, along with the tech folks. If I am in a company like that, surely, I would love to have a title like that. I wouldn't just choose service design. I would probably choose service design and strategy. As far as experience design is concerned, I it's just my title. It's what it's been for a very long time. And I don't know if I wonder if that would ever come in the way of transitioning titles, right? I'm sure it will, right? Because specifically in Germany, the events that I go to, like the conferences that I go to, when they have conversations with you and they ask you a title, they have a very, what I said about cultural nuances, over here there are very set roles, a lot of structure. So if I say I'm an experience design, they've already assumed that I do UX, UI and research. Right? There probably isn't even questions. Oh, so but what are you doing? Are you doing UX? Are you doing service design? So yeah.
What is your career journey looking like, Shreya, from here? So you've been analyzing what the Berlin market looks like. Service design is still picking up. So how are you planning your trajectory from here?
Yeah, for me, I guess my brain is still going into the direction of the kind of clients I want to work with, rather than the worry of whether I'm a service designer or not, because I feel that worry will not take me anywhere. This is my personal experience, right? Because today, if you think about it, today, from an experienced designer or from a designer, your first priority is to change titles, right? Sure, that is a very tough road to take, I feel like, because least for me, for me, why I feel that that's a tough road is because there are not enough time, not enough openings for service designer out there. And even if I do prioritize that and say I do get in Lufthansa Innovation Lab, for example, service designers work there, strategists work there, right? In BCG, but none of these places are hiring, right? And to wait for that, I feel is a lost opportunity. And those lost opportunities are actually amazing clients that you can work with and showcase that same work over there. Titles will come to you in the end.